road. Before we begin, I'd like to review some guidelines so everyone can participate and get the most out of this session. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and will be posted on YouTube and then linked to the project webpage. Microsoft Teams also offers a live captioning service, and you can find that by clicking the three dots and choosing Turn on Live Captions. Once the presentation is complete, we'll begin the question and answer portion, during which participants can ask any questions aloud and provide any feedback. The chat feature has been disabled for this meeting, so we will not be taking written questions. If you're on the phone, please just hold your questions until the end, and we'll have instructions on how to ask questions at the conclusion of the presentation. We also encourage you to submit your comments to today's meeting using the online survey, online feedback form, or by phone call. And again, we'll just have addresses for you at the end of the presentation and instructions on exactly how to do that. Before we begin, I would like to introduce a couple of guests. Olivia Logan is here from Supervisor Jimenez's office. And I would also like to introduce my colleague, Zach Desjardins, an Active Transportation Planner 3 with FCDOT. So with that, I'll go ahead and get started. And I'll also caveat all of this by adding that VDOT has not yet approved the plans associated with this project. So some of the elements of the plans may change just as a result of any feedback received during the 2-week comment period following this presentation. So the segment of Annandale Road that we are proposing to reconfigure runs between Gallows Road and Little River Turnpike. It currently has 4 very wide travel lanes that really encourage drivers to speed well over the 35-mile-an-hour limit. And additionally, the sidewalks along Annandale Road are very narrow with some missing links, and there's not much of a buffer between the sidewalk and the street. And I'd also like to talk a little bit about why Annandale Road was selected as a candidate for this type of roadway reconfiguration. So currently our countywide bicycle master plan calls for bike lanes along Annandale Road. And additionally, the county's comprehensive plan encourages pedestrian-oriented development and complete street design in this area. And this proposed restriping would be one way to make this street more comfortable for people walking alongside Annandale Road. FCDOT is also wrapping up the Gallows Road multimodal transportation study, and you can read more about that on our website. And additionally, FCDOT plans to install up to 4 capital bike share stations along or within half a mile of Annandale Road. Often in public meetings for bike share stations, we'll receive feedback, and this was the case with the meetings for these specific stations, just along the lines of, why are you proposing bike share stations here when we don't necessarily have the infrastructure like a trail or a bike lane here? So just adding those bike lanes is a good way to address some of that feedback received. Another reason that we are proposing a road diet on this particular roadway is because of the high number of both pedestrian and vehicular crashes. And later on, I'll get into exactly how roadway reconfigurations or road diets like this one can help improve safety and reduce collisions for both people driving and people walking. And just in general, we'd really like to make the roadway a more pleasant space for people using non-motorized transportation. And another piece of feedback we often receive with similar projects is, along the lines of, I never see anyone walking or I never see anyone biking on this road. So why are you trying to make improvements for people who aren't even using the road in that way in the first place? And so the hope there is just that by making the roadway a safer and more comfortable place to walk or to ride a bike, more people will feel like they can do that safely there, and will maybe be encouraged to use the roadway in ways that they aren't doing so already. So what exactly is a road diet, or another term for this is a roadway reconfiguration? These are roadway reconfigurations that typically convert 4-lane bidirectional streets into a 2-lane bidirectional street with a center 2-way left turn lane. And that center turn lane is going to add capacity to the roadway because vehicles do not have to queue up behind cars turning left like they would with the original configuration of the roadway. And then removing those two lanes also leaves space for bike lanes on either side. And we implement these road diets with VDOT through our repaving program, meaning that we modify the striping when VDOT is already planning to repave the road, which greatly reduces the cost of the project. And over the past decade, we've implemented over 30 road diets across Fairfax County with VDOT. And then I'll go into more detail on the safety benefits later in the presentation, but there is a pretty substantial body of research that has shown that road diets in general greatly increase safety for all roadway users. So recently, VDOT's Virginia Transportation Research Council published a before and after study of road diets across Virginia, and in it they studied Lawyers Road, a road on which FCDOT and VDOT implemented a road diet several years ago. And then you can see before and after pictures of Lawyers Road on the slide here. The before is very similar in terms of the actual configuration to what most of Annandale Road looks like. And then that after configuration is what we're proposing along most of the roadway. And so along with Lawyers Road, the researchers found that there was a 67% reduction in crashes over the course of 5 years since the road diet had been implemented. They also surveyed residents on their perceived effects of the project, and the majority of those respondents said that Lawyers Road seems safer and that the project improved Lawyers Road overall. And there was also a slight uptick in respondents who reported bicycling on Lawyers Road more often than they had previously done so. So moving on to what we have proposed for Annandale Road, the project extent will run from Little River Turnpike, that intersection to the Gallows Road and Annanwood Court intersection of Annandale Road. And we're proposing to convert 2 of the existing travel lanes to a center two-way left turn lane, and then just adding bike lanes on either side of the road with the remaining space there. The bike lanes will connect to some existing bike lanes on Gallows Road, Maple Place, Ravensworth Avenue, and Markham Street. And additionally, through this project, the 1.4 miles of bike lane that currently exist on Ravensworth Avenue will be extended by an additional 0.8 miles. And even for people who might not ever ride their bike on Annandale Road, just having the bike lane there provides more of a buffer space between someone walking on the sidewalk and the cars in the road, which in general just creates a much more pleasant environment for people walking. And here is a map showing that proposed project extent. So as I've mentioned, this project will bring a number of different safety improvements for people who walk along Annandale Road. Currently, it's very difficult to cross Annandale Road. People crossing have to wait for a gap and across 4 lanes of traffic. But with the proposed improvements, someone trying to cross will only need to wait for a gap across 1 lane of travel at a time and would have space just in that center turn lane to wait for another gap of traffic going the opposite direction. And that center turn lane in the median also gives us space to add future refuge islands and or flashing beacons, as you can see was done in this photo here. And those improvements, as well as additional crosswalks, are outside of the scope of the striping we're doing through the repaving program, so would not be a part of this project. But again, configuring the roadway in this way will make it easier and also less costly to add those improvements through future projects. And these improvements are definitely needed because we have very high bus ridership along this portion of Annandale Road. And with that, you see a lot of people crossing to get between bus stops. So really anything we can do to improve safety for people crossing is really helpful. And so the proposed reconfiguration also offers a number of improvements for drivers. The center two-way left turn lane can help reduce 3 different crash types. The first of those is rear end crash. And so that center turn lane is just providing a safer place for left turning vehicles to wait to turn so that they don't run the risk of having another driver crash into them from behind. And then similarly, the risk of a crash is also reduced with angled crashes because as a driver, you only need to worry about turning across one lane instead of two, and therefore it's a lot easier to see whether or not a car is coming from the far lane in the opposite direction. And then sideswipe crashes are also reduced when you eliminate the ability to pass around stop drivers who are turning left. And then also adding the center turn lane can help improve traffic flow on a road like this because the left turning drivers are removed from the travel lane, so you don't see as much queuing as you would otherwise see. And then moving on to some of the benefits for people who bike, the bike lanes will delineate space for riders. And then adding those bike lanes will also reduce the level of traffic stress for people bicycling, which hopefully will attract more riders who might not feel comfortable riding on Annandale Road in its current configuration. And the bike lanes will also provide connections between nearby neighborhoods and downtown Annandale. And additionally, as I mentioned, the bike lanes will connect to some existing bike lanes on the surrounding roads. And then finally, the bike lanes do provide some access to several different parks in the area via low stress neighborhood streets. So as part of this project, traffic impacts to Annandale Road were also studied. In terms of traffic volume, Annandale Road had an average of 16,000 cars per day in 2019, and just under 14,000 vehicles per day in 2022 on average. Um, Per the Federal Highway Administration's guidance, streets with between 15,000 and 20,000 vehicles per day are good candidates for road diets or roadway reconfigurations like this one. And in some cases, a traffic study should be conducted. So we did conduct a traffic study per that guidance. And as a result of that study, we are not proposing to make any major changes to the larger intersections on Annandale Road. So the intersections at Gallows Road and Little River Turnpike in order to retain their existing capacity um, in terms of how many vehicles they can carry comfortably. So at the Gallows Road intersection, we are proposing to turn one of the southbound travel lanes into a left turn lane. And when we analyze these impacts using a traffic simulation software, the result of adding that turn lane was a slight decrease in delay across the entire intersection. So a 5.2-second decrease in the morning during peak hour of traffic, and then 8.6 seconds during that afternoon peak hour of traffic. And so the reason for that decrease in delay is just that the flow of traffic from Merrifield and the Beltway splits off at this intersection. So adding that southbound left turn lane accommodates that already popular route for drivers turning onto Gallows Road going south. And then that single northbound travel lane returns the existing two northbound lanes at the intersection. And then at the Little River Turnpike intersection, we similarly did not propose any major changes in order to mitigate any delays. One change, however, is that one of the northbound travel lanes will become a dedicated right turn lane. And this would likely add 1 second and 2.4 seconds of delay to the AM and peak hours, respectively, for that entire intersection. However, that delay is well within the county comprehensive plan guidance, as well as an FCDOT and VDOT MOU on acceptable intersection delays. Also, at the Markham Street intersection, drivers likely see an additional 2.5 seconds delay at the AM peak hour, and then 4.8 seconds delay at the PM peak hour. And then at the Maple Place intersection, those increases are 0.8 seconds in the AM and then 1.5 seconds in the afternoon peak hour. And again, these are relatively minor increases in delay that are not likely to be noticeable by your average driver, and they're well within the county's guidance on acceptable intersection delays. Finally, this is a visualization of exactly what we are proposing for most of this segment of Annandale Road, aside from those two major intersections that I've already discussed. As you can see, you have the center two-way left turn lane here, and then bike lanes on either side with a travel lane in each direction. So projects like this one cannot move forward without your feedback. All feedback will be provided to Supervisor Jimenez to make a final decision as to how to proceed on this project. You can find more information on the project, including a survey that will allow you to submit feedback on the project webpage linked on this slide, and that survey will ask specific questions about this project that we encourage everyone to respond to. And all comments are due by October 11th, and we will have more information on the next slide on how exactly to submit feedback. And we will now take any questions or comments from attendees on the presentation. You may either ask your question verbally by raising your hand located at the top of the screen next to the three dots. The moderator, Zach, will enable your microphone and call on you to ask your question. Please just unmute yourself when your name is called and ask your question or provide your comment. And please be sure to unmute yourself again after you've asked your question. If you're calling in by phone, you can press *5 to raise your hand. And when you're called upon by your phone number, press *6 to unmute. After you're finished, please push *6 again to mute yourself. And then attendees, just please be patient as our callers are listening to system instructions through their phone to participate. And we will not be taking questions via chat tonight, as I mentioned. All right, with that, we can get started. We can start with Dave.
Hi, yes. My name's Dave. I am a resident of Annandale, and just wanted to say I support this. I think it's a great idea. I ride my bike on a weekly basis up to Central Annandale, and I use Annandale Road. I shop for groceries at the that little shopping center at McWhorter. I commuted for several years down Annandale Road, and it is scary to ride on. And I remember bringing this up even to Adam Lind back in the day, and I think you're correct about the numbers on this road do not support 4 wide lanes. And I walk in that area too, and I'm also a driver. I drive there a lot, and I've even had aggression towards me from other drivers because I'm driving the speed limit on that stretch. So the only thing I would ask is maybe in the future, I would love to see some protection of the bike lanes within Central Annandale, because there are a lot of people that live in that area. 2 weeks ago, I went up there on my bike. I saw 5 other people on bikes, which is a record. So there is demand, as you said, and I think some protection of bollards would make it even stronger in the Central Annandale area. So that is my comment. Thanks for taking it.
Yeah, thank you for the feedback, and definitely noted about looking into some protection in the future at some point as part of another project.
Great.
All right, we can move on to David next.
David 8, you are muted.
And once Zach enables your microphone, you will still have to unmute yourself, and that button should be at the top right of your screen. So David, you should be able to unmute and ask your question. You're still muted for us. if you're not able to unmute, you can also submit any questions or feedback via the web.
Yeah, just include a way to get in touch with you if you do submit a question via the survey. So okay.
Okay, we can
David
move on
H. I
to
think fell off
William.
here. So
Yeah.
yep. Okay, William, we're gonna unmute you. You can go ahead and ask your question or provide
I
your
just
feedback.
wanted to voice my support for this plan. I believe that Annandale is right for more biking infrastructure, and like Dave said, I think it needs to be protected infrastructure. I worry that cars will use the bike lane as another lane or you know, uh, a space to go around another driver, which they sometimes do. And I think that traffic calming measures are a great way to help make that area more safe for people who live there. I mean, there's an elementary school right around the corner of there. You know, kids should be able to walk and bike and play like for, and not be scared.
Let me take this one, Hannah. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Just one thing to note about protected bike lanes. So the state requires us to have a buffer space of 3 feet to add protection. And unfortunately, we don't currently have that space in this project. That may change in the future. For now, that is the rules that we've given. But thank you for your question.
Yeah, thank you for adding that, Zach. And thank you for your feedback. We can move on to Aaron next.
Yeah, hi. Again, I also want to voice my support for the project. Thank you all for doing this and for the nice presentation as well. I just wanted to also add a comment related to where this project ends, and perhaps in the future, I was wondering if there were any plans to do a study of whether to extend the bike lane or future potential bike lane all the way up to where Annandale Road and Hummer Road meet, because there already are bike lanes on those two roads. So that would pretty much connect Annandale almost all the way to Falls Church via bike lanes. So I think that might be a consideration for the future. But again, happy to see biking infrastructure get a spotlight in Annandale, and extremely supportive of the project. Thanks again, guys.
Thank you for your feedback. So actually, Zach, do you want to take this one?
Yeah. So just so the reason the project ends at the current limits is because that's where the VDOT has proposed to repave the road, Virginia Department of Transportation. We are in the middle of or we're almost wrapping up a study of the corridor. And one of the challenges is at just north of the Gallows Road intersection. The Annandale Road Gallows Road intersection is essentially the traffic splits into a Y. And so it's much higher volume there. And so we probably would have to find some kind of off-street option for that section in order to get up to Hummer Road or further. So it's a little bit further out, and it certainly would be a different project. But thanks very much for your feedback. We appreciate it.
Right, we can go to Christina next.
Hi, thank you for the information. I have a two-part question for you. I am excited about the possibility for improvements for crosswalks because the drivers ignore the current crosswalks. So the option to stop in the middle is wonderful. But my curiosity for you is, I believe there's some areas of sidewalk that are missing along Annandale. I know I've walked along there and I've been walking in people's driveways and on their grass because there's no sidewalk. Is there any plan to improve the sidewalk space along Annandale alongside this? And if not, are you anticipating that many walkers are going to start using the bike lanes?
So this The extent of this project, it really only covers, the scope is really just the actual pavement because it's done through when VDOT goes in and repaves the road. And so that just basically ends where the asphalt ends. So sidewalks would not be a part of this project. However, we do have our board of supervisors a few years ago allocated $100 million for various pedestrian improvements, including like small sidewalk extensions. So if you wanted to email us, I could check to see if that's on our list for sidewalk projects. Otherwise, I can certainly add it to that list and we could consider it for a future project.
Thank you.
And thank you for your feedback. We can go to Yvette next.
Okay, hi, Yvette, you're unmuted.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I too want to voice my support for this project. I do recognize that this is just limited to the paving, so we're talking about the striping and whatnot. With that said, like others have pointed out, if in the future we can definitely connect from Annandale all the way into Dunloring, that would be amazing. And I know that there's some studies going on and there's also some geometry issues that are dealing with that. But that would definitely give Annandale to actually connect to the Dunloring area. And I would also want to just also echo my support for better sidewalks in this area. That would be great. And then one final thing is on the very end of Ravensworth Road. So once you, on where this project ends that we're talking about now, it crosses over into Ravensworth Road, and all the way down Ravensworth Road, there's a bike lane, which is fantastic. That gives us a long stretch of bike lanes for us. Beware that the very southern end of that, or the very end of Ravensworth Road, there is some talk about removing some of those bike lanes in order to support a Braddock widening there. So that does impact the length of this entire project, which is a shame. So again, I do want to support. Thank you so much for doing this and bringing this to our community. It is much needed.
Yeah, thank you so much for your feedback, and thank you for the heads up about Ravensworth Road as well.
Yeah, we'll double check on that. Generally, we don't really remove bike lanes for we if a project's going on like that, they shouldn't be, but things do happen, and so we'll definitely double check on that. So thank you for the heads up. Back to David H. You're unmuted. You can go ahead and ask your question.
Looks like you're still muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I echo what everyone else has said. It'll be great to finally have a left turn lane onto Gallows as well as the bike lanes. And I was wondering what will happen at Maple Place, where there are 2 right turn lanes onto Annandale, which is crazy. And obviously there won't be 2 lanes anymore. I was wondering if there would be a left turn lane or more room for pedestrians or a median.
Yeah, I got this one, Hannah. So right now it's probably we're just going to stripe out that one right-hand turn lane as a bike lane. We still need to work kind of out with VDOT. We won't having a double right turn isn't really a good thing to have in a downtown area like that, and so we of course we want to have one lane feeding Annandale Road there. So we'll I don't have firm plans, but that's likely what will happen.
Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
can go to Christopher next.
Hi, thank you for having this forum and for the information. The question I have is in regards to timeframe. I know comments are due by the 11th of October, and this is also probably in coordination with the Gallows Road study. If this does move forward by the Board of Supervisors or Annandale, when do you anticipate the restriping to occur? And if there's also any other improvements in Gallows, when do you think that we could expect the Gallows Road study to be published or any forums posted about when they might present their findings?
Yeah, so this is separate from the Gallows Road study, and Zach might have a little bit more information on that. In terms of timing, it comes down to when VDOT will repave the road, which at this point is looking like will happen next summer, 2025, if this moves forward.
Yeah, usually, so when VDOT gives their paving contractors their contracts, all they say is, finish by this date and start by this date, because paving is very weather dependent, so it could happen any from spring to summer to fall of next year. Although they usually try to hurry up and try to take advantage of the good weather and whatnot. And regarding Gallows Road study, I believe that's supposed to be wrapping up pretty soon. So you should hear some more information shortly about that. And I should also add that this project kind of complements, some of the feedback we've heard from that study and whatnot, and kind of the outcomes that we hope it will produce.
Awesome. Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your thoughts and questions.
Do one last call for any questions or feedback before we wrap up. Oh, with Sonia.
Okay, Sonia, I've unmuted you. Go ahead. You can ask your question or share your comment or feedback.
Sure thing. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, great. I just wanted to express my support for this project. I think this is great. The roads in this area and in Annandale Center are desperately in need of bike ped improvements and some traffic calming. And this really is a perfect opportunity to repurpose that road space to make it safer and easier, honestly, for people to walk, bike, get to the bus, and everywhere else they want to go in that area. There's a lot of apartments, a lot of shopping, and all those things that you've already highlighted. So this is great, and I wanted to say thank you for looking at it and moving this forward. I think it's great. And also, I understand it's part of the repaving, but I want to echo the other comments about, looking longer term at, more of those improvements that are needed to sidewalks, expanding the bike lanes down Gallows, connecting to Hummers bike lanes, and into the Merrifield area, and where we can harden those bike lanes with some bollards or some kind of protection. That would be awesome. So I just wanted to those are my comments. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for your feedback.
Next is George. I'm going to unmute you.
Yes, hi, good evening. My name is George. Thank you so much for the presentation. Good ideas. Just want to piggyback on the person just spoke before the last. It's very crucial to work with the construction contractors and make sure these guys focus. I used to live in Centerville, and it still is. It took them 3.5 years. I'm not kidding. 3.5 years. Okay, since COVID pandemic, they cut all the trees. They made so much mess. They leave the job unfinished for weeks, and then they come back, do a little bit, and then they mess up another area, and then they come back to it. It's just completely unmanaged. Really bad project management. I complained to like a couple other people in the county, and basically everybody tell me like, oh, it's weather, it's short of labor. Very, very lame excuses. So if you're gonna take on this kind of project, please make sure you hire the people are competent, they are focused on the job, and don't waste any time. Thank you.
Appreciate that comment. Yeah, so Virginia Department of Transportation, VDOT, is the one who hires the paving contractors. And they will only essentially be working between the curbs. They won't be doing any other work besides essentially paint and asphalt. But yeah, definitely hear that, and it's something they do work really hard to make sure these projects finish up quickly and with as minimal impact as possible. So thank you for your comment.
Yep, thank you. All right, so if there are no other questions tonight, then I'll do a quick overview just of how to submit feedback online and through any other means. Just as a reminder that feedback can be submitted until 2 weeks after this meeting, so October 11th, the Friday. It's a Friday, so not exactly 2 weeks after this. So you can do so using the following channels. You can submit a survey at publicinput.com/W31622. You can also leave any recorded comments at 703-890-5898 with the project code 10635. Or you can mail us written comments to the address that you see on your screen here. So with that, we'll go ahead and conclude tonight's meeting on the proposed Annandale Road reconfiguration. A recording of the meeting will be available on the project webpage in the next day or so. And thank you so much for joining us tonight. And we really appreciate all of your time and participation and feedback. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.